Welcome to the Mind Body Podcast, your rebellious podcast about a strong body, calm mind, healing, and fully living. I'm your host, Maria Angelova, creator of the Angelova Method, an integrative approach to mind and body connection. The Angelova Method redefines your success equation to include a healthy body and a healthy mind, and was developed based on work with hundreds of clients, as well as my personal journey, creating the life I want, ditching stress and anxiety as a financial professional, and stepping into living a life of limitless possibilities. Hi, Rebels. Welcome to the Mind Body Podcast, your rebellious podcast with me, your host, Maria, where it is all about a strong body, calm mind, healing, and fully living. And today, my special guest is Dimitri Moraitis, who is the co-founder of the Spiritual Arts Institute. Welcome, Dimitri.
Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here.
I am so excited you're here. You do so much of what I'm super interested about. And I'm just excited about having a really cool conversation and get to know you better and get to know more about everything that you do, because you do a lot of intriguing stuff.
Great.
Let's dive in. Dimitri, give us 3 words that will tell us a little bit more about who Dimitri is and a little bit of a backstory behind each word.
A little backstory. Okay, well, I actually started my career in the artistic world. In filmmaking, I was a classical pianist, and I thought that was going to be my life path, and I really loved making movies and things like that. I went to film school and all that kind of stuff, and of course, the place to do it is Los Angeles, right? So I moved there. I was raised in Chicago, and I went to school in New York, and then so I hit all the big cities. And, things were actually going well there, but I was having, when you're an artist, as you may know, you're kind of listening to that ineffable part of life. You're trying to get inspiration for things, so you're always kind of tuning into the thing that you can't put your finger on, so to speak. So I was having more and more of what I call these inspiration moments, where I just was sort of in a different state of consciousness, very level. Very grounded. It wasn't like I was unbalanced, but just very perceptive. And they kept getting stronger. They came and went on their own. It kept getting so strong. Eventually, it was a major spiritual awakening. I call it my Saul in the Road to Damascus moment. And then I realized, as much as I love film and music, oh, wait a minute, I think this is what I've really been looking for. Because once I heard the word metaphysics, because even after the awakening, I didn't understand what had happened. I knew something had fundamentally changed in me, but I still didn't quite get it. And then when I realized what it was, I couldn't get enough of it. And I do say, movies is a jealous mistress that wants all of you. So it was hard to kind of do both at the same time. So I found myself moving more into metaphysics. About a year later, I met Barbara at a dinner party. First time I meditated, it felt like an ancient door kind of opening up again. And after one conversation, she says I was interrogating her that night. I thought we were having a nice conversation. I realized, I found my teacher, because I found the one I wanted to study with. And we jumped in right away, but it was almost from the beginning. We started writing together. We started doing more than just teacher-student relationship. And then I realized, oh, wow, this is leading to other things. And eventually, she had reams, encyclopedia of notes and this, that, and the other. We started putting things together and created the Institute. So now we have these organized teachings. We also started writing a series of books. We're coming up with the 25th anniversary edition of Change Your Aura, Change Your Life, kind of the book that got it all started. And it's been this marvelous journey. And I have to say, one of the best things about it is, you're meeting people that are on their spiritual search too, so it's like the expression fellow spiritual travelers. And it's not in one place. It's not one group of people. It just seems to be, we have found, the hardest core business atmosphere can create just as easily somebody interested in this work as somebody that, quote unquote, is living this metaphysical life. So it's been a wonderful journey. And I feel like after I was in Los Angeles, we started the organization in Los Angeles. Eventually, we moved down here to San Diego area, Encinitas, to open up a physical center. But we were doing video technology as far back as 2006, long before the Zoom COVID era. Yeah.
So, Dimitri, that's a fascinating journey. I can personally relate to what you're talking about because I started doing my Pilates practice in 2012, and I really started quieting down my mind. I used to be in the corporate world, a mom, kind of like going through, the traditional hamster wheel. Every day is the same day. You just go rush, rush, rush. Your mind is constantly going, going, going. And I truly managed to connect to my intuition, and my intuition led me to do something completely different, which is what I'm doing now. And I feel that's like my spiritual awakening and my spiritual journey. And it's absolutely been fascinating how the journey has unfolded once you start tuning more to that intuition. And just like you in the beginning, I wasn't sure, like, where is this coming from? Why is this happening? Until the light bulb starts coming on. So
Right.
for those people who have not experienced that, when you said, I realized something that had fundamentally changed, what way did you realize something had fundamentally changed? Is there like things that you can pinpoint that people can relate to?
Well, one thing we have to remember, at least in my case and everyone I've worked with, you don't make a spiritual awakening happen. It sort of happens to you. Right. So you're in the world that you're. If I had met Barbara a year before my awakening, I would not have recognized her as my teacher. I would say, oh, this is an interesting woman. She's doing some interest, but no, it's not. So one of the things we say with our students is, look, even if your spouse is not like understanding quite what you're doing, don't try to change them. Don't try to convince them of this. Let them be where they're at. Love them all the more. Barbara used to say in the beginning of her teaching, she's a generation ahead of me. The single biggest reason a person would leave the training was at the insistence of a spouse, because they didn't quite get what was going on, right? What are you doing spending all that time with Barbara, kind of a thing. So, but if you are starting to question the big questions of life, and I don't mean it like, a little kid, what does the meaning of life, mommy? I don't mean it like that. If you are just starting to realize, you know what, like you said, I feel like I'm on a wheel in a hamster cage. When you start thinking like that, then something is changing in you, because there's others that are not, right? They're maybe in the corporate world. They're excited by what they're doing. They're on their path. They're doing what they're doing, and you were on your path even before you had your awakening, right? But when you started to have these fundamental questions, the most important thing is to listen to them. Don't shove it under the rug. Oh, I'm just acting kooky today. Start to listen to it. Use your intellect. A lot of people, one of the problems is because it's a little ineffable, they think, well, we've had some very intelligent people do some really stupid things, because you don't throw your intelligence out the window. Let's say your knowledge of the business world is helping you in what you're doing now. Your knowledge of raising children is helping you now. All this it's adding. It's not like I'm leaving this and everything connected with it. It's all part of the journey. For example, my learning how to meditate, it had a lot to do, I think, with learning to play. When you're playing classical piano, it's hours of focusing on one thing, right? Well, I found I had the discipline for meditation very easy because I was already primed for that. So we take everything that we've gained in our life and it sort of adds. But if you think of life as an adventure and you're not quite sure what tomorrow's going to bring, right? Then you're on the right track. Yeah, if you're starting to think, oh, I know exactly what's going to happen tomorrow and exactly what's going to happen the day after that, then you need to shake it up. You should be doing something that's sort of shaking your tree every day, really.
I like that. Your tree. I like that, Dimitri. I think you make some excellent points. One thing I tell my clients is when you're ready, the teacher will appear. Because to your point, I have a client and she's having some huge transformation in her body and mind. And she said, I wish I had met you 20 years ago. And I said, if you had met me 20 years ago, would you have hired me? And she said, no. And I said, I showed up when you were ready to hire me. So I forgot my other point. You said that. I forgot my other point. But yes. The other point you made is you cannot make somebody change. And I have sometimes people like, oh, I wish my husband will come see you, or I wish my daughter will come see you. And I tell them, do they want to come see me? Because if they don't want to come see me, their journey is not going to be the same. You need to have that need, that want to shake things up, like you said.
Yeah.
And the other thing that it made me think, Dimitri, is like you said, you're like, oh, you're an intelligent person. What are you doing? Because sometimes your actions seem completely irrational, not common sense. And my quitting corporate and finance and starting to teach Pilates, people were like, what are you doing? And that is why I named my company Rebellious, because it was about, you know what, I'm shaking things up. I'm rebelling against like the status quo. I'm rebelling against what I should do and doing something that I'm prompted to do. To be honest with you, I was like, I don't know where this is going. And it was scary. And like you said, I was like, I ignored the callings for a while. And it took me about a year and a half after, and like that intuition just kept amplifying and amplifying and amplifying. I was like, okay, I guess I should make that scary move. And
if you feel in your heart, right, it's the thing to do. And yes, it may not always mean, again, if you're always thinking, oh, it'll make me a millionaire, it may not right away. You know, Barbara, the co-founder, she tells a great story. She was in the golden age of Hollywood when she moved to Los Angeles, right? She knew people like Cecil B. DeMille and things like that. And she was building a very successful career in entertainment. Yeah. She was getting ready to take this very lucrative offer, and the divine, the inspiration came in. This is not your destiny. You're meant to be a metaphysical teacher. Now, she accepted that. Everyone couldn't figure out around her. She had a company. She was doing variety shows, and people couldn't figure out, why aren't you taking this offer? And it was not an easy life right after that.
Yes.
But it opened up the whole mystical journey. And I say, well, if she'd gone that route, we would have probably seen you as a headliner in Vegas instead of studying with you here in as a metaphysical teacher. So you have to follow. It sounds corny, but if you follow your bliss in an intelligent way. Now, some people jump into an ocean and they don't even know how to go right or left, and that's another problem. Or they give up too soon, right? Yes. Oh, I tried this for 2 weeks, it didn't work, and I figured it wasn't meant to be. You got to be kidding me. Are you going to be a doctor in 2 weeks? Are you going to be successful in anything in even a year? So are you even really trying at what you're doing? So, but if you really are doing what you feel passionate about, then you're on the right track. And also realize it may not be forever in that road. It may switch. The road may take a turn. And you're right. Your willingness to, in a sense, rebel and say, no, I've got to go where my heart's leading me or where the divine is leading me. It will always take you in the right road, even if it's not always easy. And you will also be a much better person for it. One of the things in acting, for example, as part of the entertainment, I did some acting, is the good actors want to play a variety of different characters, different role, not the same kind of role all the time, because they're learning a different facet of human nature. So, okay, I may not become super famous for this role, but because I played this role, I learned all this and I become a better actor in this. It's the same with life. The more life experiences you gather and enrich yourself, the more your soul is going to grow.
100% agree. And as you're speaking, it's like you're sharing my story because once I quit, I had a very comfortable job. I had a paycheck. I had the benefits. I knew what I was doing. And then I got on this journey. I kind of knew what I wanted to do. And then it kind of started by diving deep down before it took a turn up. And it was dark and heavy down there. And the easy choice was, well, let's just go back to what I know.
Right.
And it was really, is that what I want to do? And once again, I'll tell you, it was my intuition that was like, no, because about 6 months after I resigned, I had somebody reach out for a job. I said, would you like to do that? And I was like, wow, that's like such an easy way to get back to what I know, to teach this, to get a paycheck. My personal journey, I started one way. I started with fitness, has evolved so much to where now I do body, mind, spirit, if you're ready, for those who are ready for that, right? But my personal journey has evolved so much, just like what you said. And it started as one thing, and now now I have a podcast. Like, I never in a million years and talk to amazing people, fascinating people. So I can completely say, yes, I personally have experienced everything that you have said, and it is so true. And the other thing I tell people, sometimes people are like, well, how long is it going to take to change? I tell them, well, how long did it take you to get here?
Yeah.
Right? Because a lot of my clients are middleweight. So it took you 50 years to get here. You want an overnight miracle?
Exactly. Exactly.
That's how
Exactly.
it works.
But look, the barometers, look how excited you are just when you talk about what you're doing. So that's telling you already I'm in a good zone, Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of that, I did want to talk about something else because I very frequently talk about energy. And I tell people, if the energy is not right, I don't want anything to do with the person, situation, whatever it is. So as an expert, you deal with aura, you deal with energy.
Right.
Like, can you talk to us, like, what is the importance of feeling energy? Because you brought up my energy, like, that I'm speaking from the heart. Can you talk a little bit about from a metaphysical perspective?
Yeah. Yeah.
Energy.
Well, I know that word has been kind of abused, but we really do have an aura. And it's not like you're a green, I'm a blue. The aura is the energetic blueprint of our soul. Everything that's going on in your life right now is making an energetic connection in your aura. Even your thoughts, your feelings, everything, and they're coming through in certain colors and energies. You don't need to see the aura to work with it. You can work with it without seeing it, but it's there. And one of the foundational truths is if it's in your aura, if the energy to make something happen is in your aura, by divine law, it'll show up in your life. And if it's not in your aura, don't cry, don't complain about it, build it there. When I was still in the film world and I just started with Barba, we work with the chakras, and the heart chakra has a lot to do with the world affairs, the activities of your life. And at the time, movie business can be a little bit of a feast or famine. You're working all the time, crazy hours, or not working at all. And I was in that moment of not working at all. And Barbara, in her casual way of saying things, would say, oh, she was kind of pointing to my hermetic, says, I see this turquoise light, which is prosperity energy coming out of your heart center. And 2 weeks later, I got the most lucrative job up to that point I'd had in the film business. So the energy to make it happen was there, but it hadn't quite manifested yet. So the goal is, when you want to create something, you have to build the power to make it happen. Don't commiserate, oh, look how lucky they got, or this, that, the other. Okay, you want that, whatever it is, and you also want it to be a win-win situation. You don't want to, it's not like I'll get it at any cost. Our expression is according to divine law and love for the good of all concerned.
Yeah.
Whether it's a job, whatever it is, a companion, like even with a companionship, you're not trying to say, I'm trying to grab that person and bring them into my life. No, that's forcing things. You're saying, if you want companionship, put that out in the universe. What kind of a person are you looking for? And then that will come back to you. It may not be the person you exactly thought it was at first, but it'll be the one that's also very compatible for you. So you create with your auric field. And even if you're at school and you're building your skills, you think, oh, I'm just learning how to do this. You're building the energy in your aura. Again, another example Barbara gave, her oldest brother was a opera singer, like Pavarotti level tenor, and he was born with a great gift, but that didn't mean he was ready for a career. So she would watch his aura as he was in training. She saw the energies getting brighter and brighter and brighter. At one point, she said to herself, you know what? He's going to start his career real soon. And that's exactly what happened. He got these opportunities. He was going on the concert stage in a more methodical way, and all that happened. So take the time to build. And like what you described with your story, if you built something to a place and it's like you built this great house and it all works and you love it, but you're feeling, I need to build a different kind of house now. Yeah, it may not immediately be like that one that you built so nice. You're going to go to the other one that the ground is not even broken yet, So it is going to be like starting from scratch, but not really, because you're going to take all the knowledge you had of the other. They call that the Midas touch, right? Someone has the Midas touch. Wherever they put their attention on, they're successful. Not necessarily because they're multi-talented, but they take the same kind of talent of success and they apply it in different areas. So when you build this other one, you'll do an even better job because you'll bring all that wisdom from where you were before. But you do have to be a little patient because, the rose doesn't bloom right away, right?
Patience is the big thing. It's definitely something I have learned to work with, and I think we definitely live in a society of we want an overnight miracle and all aspects.
Yeah, exactly.
So, when I tell people like, well, it takes time to correct how you move to gain
Well, like building a body, you're not going to build a body in 2 weeks.
one day exactly. So especially if you have bad habits that we have to get rid of or weaknesses that we have to get rid of, it takes time. So I'm really glad you brought that up because I tell my clients, all good things take time, and I love the metaphor that it takes more than a day for a rose to go from a bud to a full-blown rose.
Yeah, and they have to work on their own. If they're coming to you once a week to build their body, that's not enough because they've got to do the work. I used to teach piano, and sometimes they would just show up and said, once a week is not enough. You got to practice every single day.
I love that you're saying that because I always tell people you have to be consistent. If you come 1 hour out of an entire week and create new habits, but then, the rest of the hours you do what you do otherwise, it's going to take a lot longer to see changes than if you're reinforcing those new habits into your daily life. So whatever aspect, whether it's body or mind, or even learning a new skill, like you said, piano or anything that's out there, it takes time and it takes practice and it takes consistency.
Yeah. No, we do a lot of, like you said, I think because things are coming so fast in the information age that we think it'll come easy to us. So we don't always build that skill of discipline. The discipline comes from that word disciple, which means to learn. So when you are disciplining yourself, okay, I used to like when you're practicing the piano, it's got to get in your fingers, and sometimes your fingers aren't doing it right. So you got to stay with it. You're disciplining yourself. This isn't coming easy at first, but if you stay with it, then it does come easy. And the great pianists, it looks like they're dusting the keyboard, but they're not. They're working really hard. They've just gotten so good at it. But that was a lot of discipline. My God, Lang, one of the greatest concert pianists in the world today. Poor kid, I don't know if it was child abuse or not, but 6 years old, he was practicing 6 hours a day.
Oh my gosh, wow.
He said I was allowed a half hour a day to watch Disney cartoons. He's a kid. He's a 6-year-old kid, But to have the mental control, to focus on that. I don't know. Of course, he was born with a lot of talent, but you're going to be just born with a natural gift, whatever it is not enough to become facile at it. You got to take that gift and develop it.
I have frequent people like, oh, you move so beautifully. Yeah, because I've been practicing it for over 10 years now, and I'll demonstrate an exercise and my client will be like, oh, you just made that look so easy because I have practiced. I tell them when you practice, and it's amazing to see their growth, right? Because I have clients who are like, I will never be able to do this. And I'm like, yes, you will. Just gotta practice. And over time, it's, they are fascinated by like, oh, wow. I remember I used to think I could never do that. And they feel so accomplished because, yes, they have put in the time, they have put in the work, and they're really feeling whether it's their body or their mind. I had a client texted me a couple of weeks ago, and she said, she's like, I attend all of these meetings and come to all of these trainings. But sometimes I'm like, does this really work? And then she'll have an aha moment, right? Or an aha experience. She's like, wow, I'm so glad that I'm sticking to the process and being consistent to see those changes happen.
Yeah. There's where visualization helps. Because if you visualize the end result, let's say you've got that picture behind. Is that you behind there?
Yeah, that is me. Yeah.
All right. So let's say I'm coming in and I'm not such great shape. And I say, you know what? That picture I'm going to keep on my wall. That's my ideal. That's the image I want. Then it keeps you working towards something. So when you do have one of those moments, like, is this ever going to happen for me? No. That's the image I'm projecting. And it'll be my own body. It won't be, you have your body. Everyone has their own body. But you're when you see something you admire in a person or a situation, you don't think of either their exception or they just got lucky. See them as an example. That's really what's meant by a hero, not worshiping, but having a hero is that I'd like to be like this person. I like the way they behave. I like the way they handle things. I want to be able to handle things that way. And then when you keep working towards, you will get to that place.
Absolutely. One thing that I do with my clients is I do these workshops, because frequently they're like, oh, I'll never do this again. Oh, this is so hard. So I do these workshops where I get them together, because I do a lot of private sessions, one-on-one. And then they're like, oh, everybody's having a tough time with this exercise. And then I'm like, okay, let's see this person do the exercise. And they see, oh, this is a challenging exercise. This is challenging everybody, not just me. And then you see, okay, this is a more advanced student. He or she's still, being challenged by the exercise. They're executing better. Why? Because they have practiced more. Is their body completely different? Yes, it is. So exactly, you're seeing it. You're like, okay, they're doing a little bit better than I am. But it's very encouraging to students, because it's truly, how we move, it's truly an art form. And if you really want to study movement, if you really want to change your way of thinking, it takes time and practice, time and practice.
Movement is part of life, right? Life is movement. The planets are moving, the galaxy is moving, everything's moving, nothing's static in life. So yeah, it is kind of like the dance of life. Yeah. And it's good to go be with groups of people, because like you're saying, one-on-one is great, to really stay focused, but you really do see how you're doing when you're in with other people. It's again, I seem to relate a lot of the piano thing today, but you'd be practicing a lot, but it wasn't until you got onto a recital in front of people that you really understood how well or not well you really knew the piece.
Yeah.
Because of the one, when you're playing on your own, you get so comfortable in where you are and everything. But when you're on there, if you didn't really know this part that well, then all of a sudden, wow, what's going on? Then you really know where, you push. And that's why it's good. People, what do they say? The two biggest things people are frightened of is death and presenting themselves in front of public. And not necessarily in that order, But what is that really? Because, it's like you're seeing through me if I'm in front of a group of people. But all that means is that you're seeing, in a sense, more yourself, because they become a little bit like a reflection. Excellent. So you see more who you are. And take that as a good thing, not as a bad thing. And if I'm starting something new and God, I can barely move my body, look at what they're doing. You don't want to feel, I'll never get there, but say, okay, you know what? That was a wake-up call. I got some work to do.
Yeah. And it's awareness. That's what I tell them. Our growth, for every one of us, our growth starts with awareness. Like you said in the beginning, you were aware that something was different, that you were asking questions, right? It's the same thing with movement. You're aware of, they're moving this way because that's how they're engaging. That's what they're doing. And that's growth. Yeah.
Well, metaphysics is very much, you're not going to be a great metaphysician in a weekend.
You're not? Well, Dimitri, what piece of advice would you leave with our listeners, or a piece of a quote or a piece of advice?
I would say, if you have had an awakening, if you've had something that's called you to look kind of deeper into life, don't ignore it. It's not accidental that happened. That's the divine knocking on your door. And my advice is just to make the spiritual life a bigger part of your life, and it'll bless everything. Once you put everything under that spiritual umbrella, life just becomes more beautiful, more exciting, and you see the divine everywhere. It's not just only when you're doing something spiritual. So we encourage you to really, really follow that road.
Yeah. Dimitri, where can people find you, follow you, ask you questions, find out more about the courses that you offer, the trainings that you offer?
Well, we have the organization. It's a nonprofit, Spiritual Arts Institute. We do things virtually and also, of course, in person. The website is spiritualarts.org. And of course, we have a series of books, and you can go to Amazon or your bookstore to find out more about the books we've written.
Okay. Well, Dimitri, I am so grateful for your time today. Thank you so much for all of your wisdom and expertise. Totally enjoyed our conversation. And I do look forward to staying in touch. Rebels, you know the spiel. Feel free to share. If you have any questions that you would like to ask, please feel free to ask those questions. And meanwhile, stay tuned into that intuition, and don't forget to be rebellious. Dimitri, thank you so much again. And you guys have a rebellious day. See you next time. Did you enjoy the conversation? Like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Want to learn more about the Angelova method? Please visit our website rebellious-studio.com.